This is no offense to Wu-Tang, but my version of creed is confirmation bias rules everything around. All these biases that we tend to learn about, most of them could actually just be wrapped up into confirmation bias. There are confirmation bias, like for the example I give here is survivorship bias. I mean, usually, you know, it's a joke at this point, but you see somebody successful, everybody wants to know what's their morning routine, right? What books do they read? And like, if you go on social media, all the slop that gets passed around is this stuff. Like, what is this person reading? What are they into, right? Of course, all the people for whom we did the same exact things and did not get that outcome, they're conveniently ignored. And so we just see the survivors, and what happens is we start to like impute these magic powers on these people. Oh, you must be successful. You can build bridges. You must know how everything works. We see this all the time, and that is this confirmation bias. We tend to think that the way we think is we look at the evidence, we form opinions. It's exactly the opposite of how it works. You formed your beliefs from wherever you formed your beliefs from, and then you basically, that becomes a filter for seeing the world. You walk around through the world, and everything that confirms that prior belief ends up reinforces the belief, and everything that is contrary to that belief ends up, you basically ignore it, right? So also, this is, if you ever heard of like manifesting, like I'm gonna manifest, it's actually weaponized. It's kind of clever because you can look at that and go, what's with this woo stuff? But what they're actually doing, it's how visualization works, right? What's happening is you're weaponizing confirmation bias. If I'm manifesting something, I'm walking around with something preloaded into my head, and that will make it more likely that I can do the thing because I am now extracting all of the things that are relevant to that end goal in my process. It's actually the weaponization of confirmation. I actually wish people would talk about it in that way. It would kind of like rip the whole loose skin off it. It actually can be used to your advantage in that regard. All right. What I want to do here is we're going to experiment. All right. For each one of these cards here, this is a real experiment from 1971. I ripped this out of a beautiful book by Ben Orlin called Math Games with Bad Drawings. So here's the rule. So first of all, every card has either a letter. It has a letter on one side and a number on the other. Every card has a letter on one side and a number on the other. The rule is a card with a vowel must also have an even number on the other side. A card with a vowel must have an even number on the other side. Which cards, you can choose more than one, which cards do you need to flip over to see if the rule has been violated? Just write it down on your paper, which cards you would choose to turn over. Everybody seems good. So I'm going to show you what the selection of some of the popular answers to this riddle were in that experiment. So the most popular choice was A4. Next was A, and then you saw A47 get 7%, 7 got 4%. Okay, so kind of these are some quotes out of the section where he's explaining this, but it's pretty clear that we need to flip. Everybody agrees on this. The controversy begins after that. And A is obvious to flip because the rule is if it's a vowel, there must be an even number. So you gotta flip A because if there's an odd number on the other side, we have violated the rule. That's pretty clear. However, what happens here is if I flip over the 4, which is the next one, this was the most popular one after that. If I flip over the 4, what can I learn from that? Can I find out if we've violated the rule from that? No. Yeah. No. So the rule is if vowel then number. It's not if number then vowel. So you haven't violated the rule. So 4 doesn't get you any information. If you have a limited number of questions, you don't want to ask that question. So 4 is not a choice. So what we find here is that the correct answer is A sensitive. 4% of people got this right. It is very rare that people get A7, which is the exact right answer, right? And the whole point here is that, he says it right here. Instead of seeking examples that challenge our theories, we seek to confirm them. So what's happening is we're looking to flip over the 4 because we're looking for confirmation, but we're not looking for we can't actually disconfirm by flipping the 4. We sort of ask the thing that makes us validate it, but it's really the wrong question. What's interesting about this particular example is that it's unemotional. Nobody here has any attachment at all to this example. But we often think of, I mean, let's be honest, the whole confirmation bias thing, we tend to think about that in very political context, red and blue, right? And people will say, well, that's because you're emotionally invested in that. And I'm not saying there's not any truth to that, but the point is, it's actually way more fundamental that in our wiring than it is just about emotion. I think that you, as investors, you can probably see exactly where this is relevant to thinking about investments and challenging your own theses and what information you're supposed to be looking for when you are evaluating an investment. In trading, this is an absolutely critical skill. Like, what information am I looking for to say that I'm wrong? So, what we have here is confirmation bias is super insidious, because I wrote here that it comes dressed as rigor. So I'm going to tell you about another experiment. So the research, there's actually a guy named Paul Slovic. He was a researcher. He did a study in 1973. It was unpublished in the CIA's handbook, basically, Psychology of Intelligent Analysis. They wrote up about what happened in this study. What Slovic did was he brought in a bunch of horse bettors, and he let them pick 5 pieces of information each that they could use in handicapping the races. And the races were out of 10 horses, and they had to pick the winner. And the bettors, so he did 2 things. One, asked them to pick the winner. The other thing he did is to ask them how confident they were that they were correct, right? To put a sort of a probability on it. And what happened was he ended up, the bettors in that round where they got 5 pieces of information, their accuracy was 17%. So by chance, you'd only be right 10%. They were right by 17%. So there's definitely some signal in there. And the crazy thing is they handicapped their odds at about 18% about being correct. So they were quite well calibrated. So in the next round, he offers them 20 pieces of information. In the next round, he gives them 30 pieces of information. And in the 4th round, he gives them, I think he gave them 50 pieces of information. And what happens over time, their accuracy got no better, but their confidence went up. So what happened is their confidence was going up into the mid-30s, and their accuracy was not improving at all. What was happening here is the additional information is reinforcing their confidence, but there's actually no signal in it. So again, I think the parallel there to investing is kind of obvious. Like, you can get distracted pretty easily. Like, I like to say that it's very important in investing or trading to understand the inputs that I'm looking at. Do they map to the outputs that I care about? Warren Buffett could care less what the chart looks like. He doesn't care about how much gamma is in the marketplace right now, right? Likewise, if you are a SIG trader, you do not care how many widgets company X is going to sell this quarter. So the things that your inputs have to map to the outputs that you care about. And so if you're bullish on a name and you have the right set of inputs, and then somebody comes along and says, well, there's some technical factor going on in the market, is that something that you should really care about? Or you have no mapping between what that factor looks like in your actual process. So you're kind of falling into the Paul Slovic trap here by taking information that happens to flatter your thesis and then using that to raise your confidence. But you actually have no idea if that additional information, which you are basically unfamiliar with, how it maps to output. So that was kind of the point of that. So this is basically what happened here. It's like if you take confirmation bias and overconfidence bias, these 2 things work together, right? We are overconfident, then we go seek confirmation, we get more overconfident. It's just a totally vicious circle, unless you have to kind of try to be aware of this. So I kind of mentioned all this before. There's a little bit of commentary under there that's personal thoughts, but up to you if you care about. But I will say this: Danny Kahneman, who was the Nobel Prize researcher that is often associated with confirmation bias research, he himself admitted that knowledge of the biases did not necessarily inoculate to the biases themselves, and which I think is a testament to just how strong these biases are. However, where they have found that it makes a difference is you can point it out in somebody else. So we can't see our own blind spots. When they had kind of done that study and showed that, that really landed for me because it made me think about my own career and how we really had this incredible culture of what I would call truth finding, which is just like people that I would consider my brothers and sisters, super close with them, and all we did was argue all day, every day. We just argued and people that I love, right? So this is like a testament to like what I think a healthy sort of work environment looks like, where you're totally able to disagree with one another, but everybody is doing it with the shared goal of we're all trying to win here and we're trying to get better. That really landed for me because I just realized the extent to which, I would say something and then, my business partner think, you're only remembering the times when that happened and you're ignoring these other times, you're getting, with all those kind of things. Just pointing out the blind spot in the moment. It's good to be able to, if you can be in a culture where people are willing to call each other out and care about honesty,